Welcome, everybody. This is Dave from Universal Truth of Mankind. I'm your host, and this is Meditation 201. This is where we discuss about self. Now, like I said many times, like a broken record, this is not the me, myself, egotistical self that we're talking about, which is totally focused on the very bottom of Malkut. That's where we're focused on our five senses. That existence, the existence we're currently in and that we're most aware of, which is really only 1% of reality, but we make it 99% of reality, typically, is all derived from the five senses. This is why I say if we're in a simulation, then it's a perspective issue. In other words, we create our own little jail cell. We create our own little prison, our own little box. And we have to expand ourselves and break out of the box and make that, for example, that sphere down there, that circle called Malkut, to expand and become more and more inclusive of everything above it, all the awarenesses above it. In other words, it needs to be aware of the energetic self. It needs to be aware of the intelligent energies within us and the mind and the soul, the upper soul. It has to be aware of all these things. And therefore, now when we get to that point, we become a collective whole. That's our objective here. And that's why I take this particular image, illustration. I did have the other one where Da'at is not in it, but nonetheless, same basic. Da'at being a quasi Sephiroth. Now, I want to explain the concept of love a little bit here. And that is the word love in Hebrew is ahava, and it means to give. It's not a taking love, it's a receiving love. In other words, if we take a look at the very top three Sephiroths, like I say, that's the creator. It's a singularity. Even though and you can watch previous videos, go into descriptions, look at the playlist for Meditation 201 and watch the first video, watch every minute of it, and watch every previous video up to this point, and you understand what I'm talking about there. So the creator can only bestow. So that means from Da'at down, we receive. So the creator loves us by giving to us. That's his love. And we are to love him back. Now you may say, well, if love is a giving thing, then well, how do I love God? Well, you really can't love God. But what you're trying to do is set up a reception between you and the creator. And this is why I talk about in the first video about the concept of authority. You make the creator your authority, and the creator will bring love down to you. You have a desire for the creator, and he will bring it down to you. So let's take a look at the central Sephiroths for a moment. On the center, we're going to ignore Keter, but we got Da'at. Now, I've talked about that once before already. That's where we make the decision, a covenant between us and the creator to receive and to transform our mind. Like I said, if you want to look at this as an anthropomorphic picture, then Da'at is the mind, the head. So we're turning our mind over to the creator. We're, we are turning our authority over to the creator. So now the creator has the authority. Then we go to Teferet. Now, Teferet means beauty, harmony, balance. And this is where our heart is. So our desires have to be for the creator. The desire has to be to receive from the creator. So you see what's happening. The authority is in place. The desire is in place. Then we go to Yesud, and you say, okay, well, we know what Yesud means. We talked about in previous video. The foundation, as it is translated, is translated as. This is where we can procreate. So we have a desire to multiply. So we're giving our offspring to you, to the creator. Now, this offspring at this level here that we're talking about is not necessarily physical, though it can be as well. But when you get to Malkut, that's the physical. That's the world. That's the kingdom that we have in the world where we're trying to transform. Like right now, we talk about alternative economies such as going through cryptocurrency versus the fiat currency we have from the Federal Reserve, which is not federal nor a reserve. And we're trying to find, it's like if you trade gold and silver or you barter. Now, bartering is, in a sense, illegal in the United States. Why? Because they want you to use their money. So bartering is an alternative economy. So what you're trying to do is create an alternative society, an alternative reality, a more real reality. Because remember, at this level, you're dealing with the five senses only. Right? So you see that flow coming down. And like I said, the top three, Keter in particular, just touch this for 1 second, really means crown. And that is typically associated with the concept of thought of creation. So you're trying to reproduce the thought of creation into this world. Now, how do you do that? Well, you can have it with children, but let's think about this for a moment. Do you just have a child and you send him off on his or her own? No, you rear that child, you raise that child, you discipline that child, you encourage that child, you take that child and you try to imbue it with your wisdom and knowledge so it doesn't make the same mistakes as you do, even though it wants to make the same mistakes as you do. Because most children like the scenic route. Does anyone disagree with that one? I don't think so. So we keep this middle alignment going and we bring down the light to the world. Now, so we're loving the world. We're loving our neighbor. We're loving our children. But another way you can reproduce yourself is by teaching. Let's say you enjoy working with people who are disabled, to encourage them, to help them to become all they can become. That's a form of this. Because believe it or not, a lot of disabled people can't communicate it, but they're very spiritual in nature. They know more than you do. It's just they don't share it and they don't know how to share it. It's almost like their tongues are tied, so they won't share it. I see that in my son, my one son. He has this ability to look at a situation and sum it up. And he hits the nail on the head all the time. Problem is, a lot of times he tells me where I'm wrong. So, yeah. And he's right. So I have to be there. So that's loving a child. That's loving others. Maybe you are a type of person where you feel you should be a layperson or a religious person, but you want to be above religion. You want to meet people where they are. You want to help people where they are. And you want to expand your world by including them in your world. And that eventually makes an impact where? On the mind of the person, on the desires of the person, and they too can replicate themselves. Maybe not with a physical child, but they can replicate themselves with their lives. I've seen disabled people be an encouragement to people who are not disabled. So even they have an influence upon the world, a positive influence we're talking about in all these situations. So it's very important for us to transform the physical realm. That's the five senses. The energies within us, like the chakras, to improve those, because we can help people. That energy can be used to help others. How many times have you been in, it just happened to me recently. I was with this person, a client, and this client said to me, you're so refreshing. You have such energy in you. What's she talking about? She senses the energy. By the way, this person was disabled. Understood the energy in me. She can see it's there. The desire, what is the desire? What the desire is the central balance point between the six sephirots, where they come together. I know I talked about Yesod, where it talks about the multiplication aspect, the desire to multiply and have children, children of God, good children of Hashem. That's what we're looking to do. We're looking to reproduce. That's a desire. Now, that Tiferet is a desire. That's our heart, where we need to start thinking about those things we're meant to do. So we have a I would say I would call this intelligent energy level that we're working on, that we have in common with the Creator, where we want to emulate, simulate, act as, be a simile of the Creator. And so the Creator did create these particular, what's called intelligent energies, those six, and we are to transform our intelligent energies to match and resemble that pattern of intelligent energies. Now, we don't need to do anything, and we don't need to meditate on any particular one of those. You could, you definitely could, but it's for the asking. You ask for the intelligent energies, that pattern of intelligent energies to come into you and transform your intelligent energies. And again, like I said, it's the asking. Like I said, Da'at is a quasi setup. It is a Sephiroth we create through our desire to take the thought of creation, implement it into our minds, the metaphysical level, implement it into our intelligent energies, implement it into our energetic self, multiply it with others into this realm, the physical realm. Whenever we talk about physical realm, you have to think in terms of five senses. So we could say that everything above is a sixth sense, especially when we have Da'at and we turn our authority over to Creator. We have a sixth sense, not ESP I'm talking about here, but a sixth sense, a sense of the Creator's desires for us. Because remember what I said in the very first blessing called the Avot for the fathers. In the Amida prayer, it says the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Why does it say this? Because Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had different purposes in life. So when you create that Da'at, the Creator will slowly identify what your true purpose is. And as that true purpose becomes more and more alive, the more balanced you become, that becomes implemented through those, I'll say, remaining seven sephirots. It's a very simple concept of doing it, and that is self. So you're loving self. God loves you, He gives. Da'at receives, and then it gives to the intelligent energies. You love the intelligent energies within you. This is all part of loving self in a proper way. And you share those energies, the energetic self. Share with the positive energy with the energetic self through love, through giving. And that eventually comes down to Malkut, the last one. True love. Love your neighbor as yourself. So we are to love ourselves, but not in a conceited, me, myself, and I, how wonderful I am. And I went to the moon and you didn't, and I'm God's gift to the world and you're not. We're God's gifts to the world. So that's how you love yourself. Love yourself is not saying, gee, I know I'm diabetic, but I'm going to have that chocolate cake and I'm going to love it. No, that's not love. That's not what we're talking about. Now, you may say, well, what about the five senses in a lower realm? Yes, that's the way you got to think. But what happens is your perception and not the reception of those five senses change, but your view, your perspective of those, or the interpretations of those five senses change. You see a person, you go, oh my, I can't stand that person. That person's so ugly. Oh, or that person's so beautiful. And then all of a sudden, you look at that person as a human being. You look at that person as more than simply looks, more than simply a smell. I remember I went to high school with a girl who used to smell so bad. Oh my gosh, it was horrible. But she was the kindest, nicest person. And it was strange, but you had to overlook your smell and say, this person's wonderful. Who wouldn't want to be with her? It's that type of a thing. Maybe somebody annoys you when they talk. Well, maybe through a love, you may start saying, this person has something to say. And I really need to pay attention because I can learn a lot from this person. I didn't realize that. Yes, he may speak monotone, like Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller's First Day Off. Boy, that would drive me crazy. But a person like that may have a lot to say because they're so focused, they don't put inflections in their voices. That's an example. Maybe you don't like the feel of something or you like the feel of something. You may have to look at it differently. That's what I mean by these five senses. The world has a lot to offer to us, but it also expands our perspective. It expands our view of the world. So we slowly remove ourselves from what? The simulation. Now, there's another aspect, and I've talked about this before, where the middle column is what you're trying to align, like your spine. That's why when you meditate, you try to make your spine straight. So you're mimicking, mimicking what's actually happening in the background, where you're receiving a light and it goes down towards the Malkut. Now, let me just go up to light one more time to really do this. Love is what? Reception. And through that reception, we gain wisdom. We have revelation. We have sanity. What is that? That's our mind. Those attributes are important to our mind. If we don't have that, then we're kind of dead in the water and we blow with the wind, so to speak. And we can't control our five senses or the desires of those five senses. Why? It's not the five senses that are giving you desires, it's the interpretation of those five senses that will dictate your desires. Then it says righteousness. That's your desires. The balance of those intelligent energies come together and your desires change and are transformed into the very desires the Creator has for you and created you for. Like I said, the Amida prayer, a vote, the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, Isaac and Jacob, because each one had different mission, a purpose, different experiences. And so God had to meet each one where they are and who they are and what they were created for. We're not cookie cutters. When you go into a typical religion, I don't care, pretty much any religion, um, I would say most of them are trying to make a trying to put you through the cookie cutter, but it's not you. Positive energy also is received. What's that? That's the energetic self. Remember I said in Reiki and stuff like that, Schneerson, that can be shared. And the healing comes to the body. Most diseases, like 96%, I think it is, Let's just say 90%. Because what happens? Emotions get involved. And you create a war within yourself, which eventually messes up all those sephiroths. It makes chaos out of them. And your body ends up feeling that chaos and it gets ill, it gets sick. I think we can all think of a situation where that's the case. This is why when we take a look at the news, and I've known this since I was a kid, this is nothing new. I go back pretty far. The news way back in the 70s, early 70s, I've noticed started playing with emotions. Yes, I saw this as a little child, like 6 years old. And I realized they were trying to control me through emotions. They wanted to create chaos so I become reliant on them because everything's out of whack. So you become a slave to them. No longer is God your authority. So be careful when you see anybody or the news or that tries to get you emotionally hyped, whether it's negative or positive. A salesman tries to get you positively going so he can get your money. A person who wants to control you runs negative emotions to try to control you. Take a look at those politicians out there that are playing emotional games right now, especially since Doji is starting to pick up on the waste, if to put it mildly. Why are they so uptight about this? Are they on the receiving end and they're trying to control you? So they throw negative emotions out? I have no other explanation. So let's go back. Whoops. So there you go. That's another perspective of this, where we are to love each other. I mean, ourselves. And until we do this, we cannot love others. We need to have gratitude for our existence and for the purpose that we've been placed here for. And that gratitude is going to drive us to find out who we really are, what you're really meant to do, what is our true impact to Malkut. What is the thought of creation for me, not for the next person, for me. I'm supposed to be myself, or I should say self, not somebody else. Somebody else, maybe they have a very similar purpose as I do, but they never have the exact same purpose. All right. I think we covered all this. Love, self. Shalom, shalom, everybody.